Hey guys, a little bit different of a video today. Today I wanted to talk about the coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, which is what I'm going to be um, referring to it as for the rest of the video. Um, I had the pleasure of going to the store earlier today, and it was absolute chaos. Literal chaos. Like you would think it was a zombie apocalypse or something and raiders had like fucking taken everything from the store. Like absolutely no toilet paper. I don't know what people are doing with toilet paper. No toilet paper in sight. Very little soap and hand sanitizer and stuff like that. Um it was absolutely insane. I was literally puzzled. I thought that everybody freaking out about COVID was just like a meme. I didn't think people were actually freaking out about it. Um, but people are. So I wanted to make this video as your friendly neighborhood biochemist to give you guys some of the research and actual statistics behind COVID-19 to explain to you why I'm not even remotely worried and why the vast majority of you should not be remotely worried at all about this either. I'll also give you the source to my information, and I highly encourage you guys to read up on it because I was curious after going to the store, after seeing everything just fucking wiped out, just depleted. I was very curious. Is there actually a risk here? Is COVID actually, worth all the hype? And the short answer, the TLDR, is no. It's not. It's not that big of a deal at all. And it is being vastly overblown. Uh, I don't know why. I think it's likely due to the media. Now, I'm not somebody that watches the news or anything like that. But I did go ahead and tune into CNN and Fox News and all of those wonderful networks, and they were making it sound like it's literally the end of the world, like COVID is rampaging through. It's gonna murder your children. It's gonna murder your parents, and then it's gonna leave you on the side, coughing up your lungs, and then finally take you out of the game as well. I don't know why uh they're really hyping this up, but in my opinion, if I can come through, I can give you guys the facts and the statistics on this, right? We can have an objective look at COVID, maybe compare it to influenza as well. Then you guys will be better informed. And if I can help even like 10 people uh not be idiots, then I'm going to go ahead and do that because I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if you are panicking, there's only like one group of people that should actually be legitimately worried about COVID. Everybody else, which is the vast majority of people that's panicking, is dumb. Like they're dumb. They have not done research on it. There is absolutely no reason to be worried about this. But let's take a look here at why I feel this way. There will be a link in the description to this website, Our World in Data. They're partnered up with several of the guys over at the University of Oxford. I have used this website specifically for several papers that I've written. It is a wonderful source of objective information. They have compiled a lot of this info with the WHO, which is the World Health Organization, which is also kind of the go-to other than like the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control, for this type of information. I recommend that you guys give this entire article a read. It's very fascinating. It covers literally every single thing there is to know about COVID-19. I went through and read the whole thing already. But Obviously, judging by the panic, people out there don't like to read. People out there don't actually like to be informed about things. They just like to watch the news or, I don't know, read Facebook posts or something and then panic over that without actually doing any bit of intellectual research and digging on their own end. So I'll go ahead and go through and show you guys the type of information you can get from this, and also sort of sum it up and why I don't think it's that scary as your friendly neighborhood biochemist, taking a look at things objectively. Um, so they explain how they get the data from the World Health Organization, why it's built up from them. Here, this can be a very scary thing to some people, right? Some people look at this and they say, oh my God, look at Italy. It doubled in 4 days. 15,000 total cases worldwide, 132,000. Just daily confirmed cases plus 7,000. That's crazy. It's not that crazy. It's really not that crazy. And I'll show you guys why when we talk about influenza, which is the common flu. I'll show you guys why these numbers are very low and not that crazy at all to begin with. But the main reason that this stuff has increased so much is because of China. We all know that it broke out in Wuhan, which has a population of roughly 11 million, I believe. But China is, has a vast majority of the entire world's population, right? It is very condensed, has tons upon tons of people, so it's very easy for something like a viral infection to spread between people in a matter of just a few days. You can really rack up that count of people infected. But you can see here, it's kind of tapered off over in China, right? Only 10 new in a day, which really is not that much. It's sort of tempered off, but you can definitely get a lot of interesting information here, and it is up to date as of yesterday at the time of recording this, and it'll probably update later today. So that's a little bit of interesting. They also have a section for confirmed cases. You can see here total confirmed cases. It looks like it's sitting at 132,758, which 3 months into the year is really not that much, to be honest with you. But if we go to what I think is the most interesting, when we start talking about the deaths, right, or the CFR, which is the case fatality rate, it's how likely you are to die if you get infected with this, right? And in my opinion, the only reason to be really freaking out about a virus is because you think you're gonna die, and that's what it seems like people are freaking out about. Like they think that they're gonna die or be extremely sick, like bedridden, in like a hospital bed and stuff. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe nobody thinks that they're gonna die with this, and they just are freaking out because they just don't want to get mildly sick. I don't know. That could be the case, but that would be very strange. So if we go ahead and take a look here, this is what I find very interesting. Is the total deaths. So it looks like we're sitting at 4,955 as of March 13th, due to COVID-19. And then they have a daily deaths thing, which can really, make people panic. But you have to remember, right, that all of these numbers do need to be put in the same headspace as the total number of infected. So, 300 people dying out of 150,000 people being infected is really statistically not a lot. It also, they talk about testing. Obviously, we know how they do the test with the cotton swab and stuff like that. They talk about total tests confirmed in each country, which is quite interesting. Looks like China really going ham. Same with South Korea, really going ham with those tests. A lot of people want to get those tests done. If you continue to move down, you'll get a little bit of lore. Everybody loves a good bit of lore on how things went ahead and spread. But if you go down, I really, really like this because it shows you the breakdown of symptoms, right? You have to remember that this is not out of the entire base of 150,000 that have been infected, but instead it's out of 55,924 laboratory confirmed cases of COVID-19 in China in the period of up to February 20th, okay? But definitely still a sizable sample size. So I personally would scientifically state that this is credible. It's a credible sample size, and these statistics could indeed be extrapolated and applied to the general population, personally. And if we take a look, we can see 87.8% of people are going to have a fever, right? 67.7% of people going to have a dry cough. 38.1% of people going to have fatigue. So already huge drop-offs, right? So the vast majority of people that are getting COVID-19 are just going to have a fever, maybe a dry cough. That's it, dude. That is it, right? Then you move to less likely things such as sputum production. This is essentially just mucus in the lungs, 33.4%. Shortness of breath. This is, can be worrisome. Typically going to impact your older individuals, but that's something we'll get into later, and that is definitely a focal point of who should be worried. But you can see, the breakdown of sore throat, headache, chills, nausea, all of that, which is quite nice. Talks about the incubation period and how long it lasts, the progression of it, the severity of cases. So this touches on something very important, right? The number one thing to remember, to take away from this, is that this line right here, something very easy to look over, something not a lot of people think about, not a lot of people talk about. It is likely that many more cases were so mild that they were not identified as COVID-19. Now, this is something that you have to keep in mind, is that all of these numbers are just from people that said, oh, I am sick and I'm going to go to the hospital and get tested for coronavirus, right? Let's be real. A lot of people, a ton of people get sick and they don't go to the doctor, especially here in the United States, whether it's health insurance as an issue or whatnot. A lot of people don't go to the doctor's office. And as a result, there are so many cases of COVID-19 that are likely not actually being documented. This would heavily inflate the mild cases section to be where it is now at 81% of the cases of coronavirus are mild cases, right? This would heavily inflate it. I would say it would be honestly accurate to say even up to 90% if you were to count in all of those people that did have COVID-19, but they were healthy individuals, right? So it wasn't that serious, and it went ahead and it passed, and they never got, any extra attention for it, which is a lot of people, no doubt about it. That's just a line that a lot of people are not going to really pay attention to. But this visualization shows the severity of symptoms suffered by 44,415. Once again, I would state that is that definitely is a sizable group of people. And I would say it's scientifically, it's a large enough sample size. So if we take a look at the definitions here, we can see that mild cases, the majority, 81%. Like I said, realistically, that number is significantly higher than 81%. Of these coronavirus disease cases were mild cases. Mild cases include all the patients without pneumonia or cases of mild pneumonia. And this is where we get into where coronavirus can be significantly more serious, is with the development of pneumonia, which does not happen in a lot of cases for most people. So then we have severe cases, 14% This includes patients who suffered from shortness of breath, respiratory frequency. So you can see here they're having issues breathing. These are typically some situations that could be pneumonia, right? So getting a little bit more severe. And then 5% for critical cases, patients who suffer respiratory failure, septic shock, and or multiple organ dysfunction or failure. It is important to note here, 2.3% of all cases died. So the case fatality rate here is going to be 2.3%, right? Which statistically is not very high. And you have to remember, I see a lot of people saying, well, yes, 2% case fatality rate isn't high, but if it infects millions upon millions upon millions of people, then 2% is quite high, right? I see that argument quite a bit. And you're absolutely correct, right? While 2% of the current infected count, which is 150,000, is not that high, if it was 2% of millions upon millions, hundreds of millions, sure. However, how the disease is currently spreading and growing as of right now, which we took a look at earlier, it doesn't really indicate that we're going to be hitting those crazy high numbers, especially because the amount of people being infected with it and diagnosed with it is going down severely. On top of that, we are now more aware of it, so people are getting treatment earlier, and as a result, they are not even getting close to the severe cases or critical cases. It's almost all mild cases, with the exception of one group of people, which we'll now get into here. So it defines case fatality rate for you. Once again, you guys feel free to read up on this on your own. I highly encourage it. If you want to just be, more educated about the situation, I always highly encourage people to educate yourself on things, especially when there's a lot of misinformation out there, especially like with COVID-19, tons upon tons of misinformation out there. You can go ahead and be that person that goes, actually, try not to do it in an annoying way, but you can go ahead and educate your fellow peers and hopefully try and, make their panic subside. Let them know that there's really not that much to be worried about. So this is them going ahead and explaining case fatality rate, all of that. It is important to note that for case fatality rate, it does depend heavily on the area, right? So if you just do case fatality ratio of everyone, it's not going to be as accurate as just doing it by region, which is how they would like you to do it. In this case, they say global case fatality rate. So here you can see the huge difference in taking the world and then taking just a country. So if you take a look here, they have the case fatality rate globally, which is 3.48%, right? And this is based on 109,578 confirmed cases. So this is a little while ago. And 3,809 deaths. However, if you look at just case fatality rate in China, it's up to 3.86%, right? With 80,904 confirmed cases, 3,000 deaths. Once again, largely because China is so densely populated. Then you look at case fatality rate for the rest of the world, which is 2.39%, significantly lower than looking at globally and looking at just taking China entirely out of the mix here because they're so densely populated, right? We went over it. And you have 28,674 confirmed, 686 deaths. So significantly lower there. So it is going to depend, the CFR is going to depend heavily upon, the area that you're doing it. But this is the most important part, right? This right here is why most of us should not be afraid of coronavirus. And that's because the populations that are at actual risk of having serious health complications, developing pneumonia, and dying is the elderly, right? A lot of people, there's a lot of misinformation saying that your children are at risk and children are at a high chance. And this is just statistically not accurate. You can see it with this grid here, 0 to 9 years, 0%. They're at lower risk of dying, 10 to 19, 0.2%. We're not even at a 1% rating, guys. And then you can see here it also states there were no reported deaths in children under 10 years old. 0.2% of those aged 10 to 19 who were diagnosed with COVID-19 died from it, according to the early Chinese data. So children are not at risk of dying whatsoever or getting severe cases. None of that. They're not at risk at all, which is what I know a large majority of the population is worried about. Oh my God, my kids. I'm so scared for my kids. Once you look at the actual statistics on the, situation, right? You remove the emotional part of everything. You look at it objectively and rationally, you'll see that there is no reason to panic about that. Children are just statistically not, there's no need to be scared, okay? There's no reason for you to be worried about 0.2%. That's just absolutely silly. Same thing with 20 to 29. Same thing with 30 to 39. Almost the same thing with 40 to 49. That's the vast majority of individuals right there, right? Vast majority of individuals are going to be from that 0 to 49 range. However, once you start to go over 50, that's when things start ramping up. Things start to get dangerous. And this is what I'm talking about when I say there's one group of people that should be worried, that should be taking these precautions and taking the virus seriously. And that's the elderly population or people that are caring for the elderly. If you are somebody that's caring for an elderly person or, you are an elderly person, absolutely, it warrants the worry, right? But for the vast majority of everybody else, it doesn't really warrant any worry whatsoever. And I see people saying, well, Zach, if you are spreading the disease, right, then you are increasing the chances of elderly individuals being infected. So you are, increasing the odds of the elderly population dying. And yes, that is absolutely true. And I'm not saying you guys should all be coughing into each other's mouths and licking each other's eyeballs. What I'm saying is that the mass panic is not necessary from the vast majority of us. There's no reason to be going to stores and buying up everything in sight. It just doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. This video is turning out way longer than I was planning on it being. I was planning on this being a relatively short video. But hey, there's a lot of information to digest, I suppose. So if we take a look at the breakdown here, you can see for many infectious diseases, young children are most at risk. We see this in malaria. However, it's not the case with COVID-19. You can see here that the fatality rates, if you have other, diseases going on, is also higher, right? So if you have cardiovascular disease, diabetes, chronic respiratory disease, hypertension, cancer, then you are at higher risks as well. But this sort of makes sense with anything, right? If you are an obese individual, you're somebody that is not inherently healthy, of course, you're going to be more predisposed to get the negative repercussions of any disease. That's just typically how it works. And then if we go ahead and go down here, it will actually compare with other diseases with the case fatality rates. You can see with SARS, which is what COVID-19 usually compares itself to. You have a 10%. MERS is 34%. The flu in the US, 0.1%. which is very low, but we'll get into that in a second. Ebola, which is obviously just crazy high. So if we actually do go on over to the numbers for the flu, you'll see that they are significantly higher in almost every single aspect, actually. So this is the CDC. This is their disease burden of influenza. So this is kind of the breakdown of how places are, affected by influenza. If we go down here, which is what I find the most interesting, is that we have the breakdown of illnesses, hospitalizations, and deaths. And if we look at just 2017 to 2018, here we'll see 45 million people got the flu. So lots and lots of people are infected with the flu every single year. And you can see it killed 61,000, which is a ton compared to the old COVID-19. And that's just because obviously a lot more people are infected, but the same people are the ones dying, right? And you have 810,000 hospitalizations, which is crazy as well. The same people who are at risk of, dying to influenza are the same people that are at risk of dying with COVID-19, right? It's the exact same group of people, of typically the elderly. So you can see here, if you wanted to break that 61,000 down for the entire year into just, 25% of the year, since we're 3 months in, you would still have a significantly higher number of fatalities than good old COVID-19. So while the flu infects way, way, way more people, and it isn't a directly apt comparison just due to the, case fatality rate of being 0.1% compared to roughly 2% with COVID-19, it doesn't look like COVID-19 is going to hit anywhere near the infected numbers that's, that the flu is hitting. Nowhere near. We're only at 150,000 cases, right? Like, you have to keep that in mind. We're at 150,000 cases, and this has been going on since late December. So within 3 months, 150,000 cases, and it's now tapering off significantly, is just really not worth freaking out about. There is, in my opinion, literally no reason to cancel school and stuff like that, to cancel all of these things. There's just no reason for it. The actual statistics on the matter don't lead me to believe that this is a pandemic or some sort of epidemic that needs to be contained. It's just like a worse version of the flu. That's it. That's really all it is. The vast majority of individuals, especially like people, kids at school and stuff, there's almost no risk for them. So I don't know why school is being canceled when they're at such low risk, statistically speaking. I mean, we are talking about a 0.2% of individuals even going into, any severe cases. And that's 0.2% of the 150,000 that are infected, which is, it's just such a low number that statistically speaking, I wouldn't be worried if you're within that age gap of, 1 to 49. If you're over 50, yeah, take care of yourself, but that's sort of the same with everything, right? Just practice good hygiene, take care of yourself, eat healthy, exercise. And if you are, taking care of someone that's elderly, absolutely do the exact same thing. But I mean, I think those groups of people already know that. I think the elderly already knows that they're usually at a higher risk of dying when they get sick. That's just kind of the way that the cookie crumbles as you get old. Humans, I hate to break it to you guys, as you get old, humans die. It's this crazy thing. I know. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be scared of that, but I am saying that if you are within those groups of people, you should probably already have those realistic expectations that if you are getting sick, it's going to be significantly more serious than a younger individual. Um, so that's the breakdown. There will, of course, be the link in the description to the CDC information on influenza, as well as this, which I highly encourage everybody to look at for COVID 19. But that's going to do it for me. I just wanted to kind of give you guys a little bit further information regarding this as to why you shouldn't be afraid in purchasing all the toilet paper. Of course, this video is too long though, and as a result, nobody will watch it, which is unfortunate. But what are you gonna do, right? How am I supposed to educate you guys, right, and bring a little bit of edumacation to all of you in such a short matter of time with so much information to go over? It's just very difficult. So thank you everybody for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Remember, just wash your hands and be a healthy individual, and you'll be Gucci. And stop buying all the toilet paper. Why do you need all the toilet paper? Why? Hmm? You saw the chances of developing diarrhea is very, very low. Very low. It's actually like the least likely symptom of COVID-19. So if you could stop buying all the toilet paper, that would be appreciated. Okay. Thanks for watching. Have a good one, dudes. Bye bye.